This is Marc Franklin, and we're going to do another vintage tech talk today about the Sony EVO-9800A. The EVO-9800A is an editing player and recorder for the Hi8 format. The Hi8 format started out as a consumer format as Video 8 at 240 lines in the mid-1980s. But Sony, in order to compete with Super VHS, decided to do Hi8, which brought the resolution of the Hi8 tapes up to 400 lines, equal with Super VHS. That was good enough for journalists during the Gulf War. You can see the size difference, and the Beta SP cassettes only could hold 30 minutes of footage. So you had a much smaller camera and got a lot more time. Did you sacrifice a little quality? Yes. Betacam SP was 500 lines of resolution and Hi8 was 400. But when you got it back to the truck or wherever you were editing the footage, most of the journalists were editing from a Hi8 source deck like this and going into a BVW75 in order to keep the quality up. Here is a consumer camcorder that one of my clients gave me. It's a Hi8. It's from about 1991, 1992, has RC time code. It was pretty much the highest end consumer camcorder you could get. I actually looked at getting one of these as a B-roll camera for my S-VHS setup in the early 90s. If you were a journalist out covering combat, you didn't have to stand up with a Betacam. You just kind of put this over your head so you were less of a target. You'd rather have one of these small things than a giant Betacam, which kind of looks like a bazooka or a missile launcher to the untrained eye. So it's much easier to be able to stick this around a corner than a giant Betacam rig. As Hi8 got popular, Sony had to come up with decks to do the editing, and this is one of them. And I've been using it for transfer work for about the last 15 years or so. This machine has all the things that you're used to seeing on a video deck. So on the front, you have the jog shuttle knob. You've got all the controls for play, fast forward, rewind, all that. And then over here, you have your VU meters and audio levels. The Video 8mm family of camcorders and VCRs has a couple of different types of audio you can find in them. They all have AFM hi-fi audio. Depending on which machine you have, it could be AFM hi-fi stereo or AFM mono. The higher end decks have PCM, which is digital stereo, and that is a track that is separate from the AFM audio. The AFM audio actually records as part of the video signal. The PCM is a separate track. So there was an EVO-9800A editing deck so people could edit to Hi8. Not many people did, but if you did, you were able to insert the PCM audio tracks as separate PCM left and right audio inserts. You just have to figure out which audio you have on your tapes and which one actually sounds better. Usually it's going to be the PCM, but you never know. You have to listen to them both. Like a lot of Sony products, it's got a hidden control panel underneath. And underneath here, you switch to either the AFM or the PCM. On the back here, you have the audio connectors. The Sony Hi8s actually use the professional XLR audio inputs and outputs. And here we have the video cluster of inputs and outputs. The video inputs are actually the difference between the EVO-9800A that we have here and the EVO-9800 was, for some reason on the EVO-9800 they left out the S-video. This one will give you a better picture if you're using those outputs. The transport is very small in this machine. It's over here and it's underneath this board here. This is my least favorite machine to work on. It's hard to do things in such small spaces. if a tape does get stuck in this machine, I can't just pop out the transport like I can do it on a Beta SP machine or U-Matic machine or a VHS machine. I have to first take the sides off, then I have to take the front panel off, the top half of it. Then I gotta remove these 4 screws. I amazed myself that I actually got it in and out a couple times. But the first time it never seemed to work correctly afterwards. I'd hear this grinding sound and would just shoot the tape back out. I put everything back where it was supposed to be and it just wasn't working. So here's a little engineering tip from a non-engineer who just happened to find this out. So I found out first tightening these down and then untightening them about a 1/4 to a 1/2 turn on each one of these screws makes the elevator work. Now, I don't know if that's in the Sony tech book or specs or what. I just know that it fixed my deck. Again, I'm not an engineer. I had actually purchased a TIAC Hi8 professional deck that it's good, puts out a nice picture, but it's not as solid as this. And I'll make a whole other video about that one. But I was going to replace this with the TIAC deck, and then this one was working ever since. The TIAC deck is my backup deck. The Sony Hi8 deck is back in the rack, and I just pulled it out to show you guys. So there you have a little information on the Sony EVO-9800A. And if you have any Hi8 or Video 8 tapes that you need transferred, please send them our way and we're happy to digitize them for you. We can do them as standard definition, we can up-res them to high definition on various codecs, H.264, ProRes, Avid DNX. Just let us know what you need and we can accommodate you.